Hello, my name is Rob McIntarfer. The purpose of this video is to summarize some of the features of a new resource for AP Psychology teachers and students called AP Psychology Q&A. Kristen Whitlock and I wrote this book to be useful for teachers and students, and we wanted to summarize some of what we think might be useful for you. Here's our email, here's my Twitter handle. Please contact us if you have questions. Here's the book. The purpose of this book is to provide you with a lot more practice in answering AP Psychology style multiple choice questions. We wrote 600 unique items that have never appeared anywhere before, and we included detailed answer explanations. If you work your way through these 600 items, practice them, see if you get them right or not, and then analyze what the right answers and the wrong answers are, and perhaps go back and repeat items that you missed, you will be much better prepared for the AP Psychology test. The book also features some features that may not be obvious at first glance, so we wanted to make a quick video that highlights some of those elements. Here's a summary of what we want to talk about in this video. We want to talk about the item analysis we engaged in that resulted in the item categories that we use throughout the book. We want to talk about the new skills that the College Board put in the AP Psychology curriculum and how we included those in the book. And then we wanted to highlight the main feature of the book, which are the 600 new items, in a little bit more detail. We engaged in an item analysis, and this part, we described this part in the introduction to the book, so please read about that there if you're interested. But we thought we'd talk about it a little bit in this video, just in case that's helpful. Your AP Psychology teacher and you should know that the AP Psychology exam is built on a table like this. On the left-hand side, you'll see the old 14 units that the AP Psychology curriculum and Intro Psych textbooks are still organized according to. On the right-hand side, you'll see the new units from the new College Board course objectives. As you can see, they combine some of the old chapters into new units. So the History and Approaches chapter and the Research Methods chapter were organized into the Scientific Foundations unit. The percentages indicate the proportion of items that you can count on being from that unit when you see the AP Psychology exam. So 10 to 14% of the items on the AP Psychology exam will be from the Scientific Foundations unit. So that's one way to think about how the AP Psychology test is organized. But there's another way to think about it as well. We decided to take a lot of previously released items from AP Psychology tests and see if they fell in any other useful categories. So we cut those items apart into little slips of paper, and we just went around and around a table to see if they fell into some natural categories. We think we've uncovered some other categories that AP Psychology items fall into, and knowing about those categories and practicing those categories may also help prepare you for the exam. Here are those categories, and here are the proportions that we found on the test. We're going to go through each of these categories individually and show you an example. Please know this is all summarized in more detail in the introduction to the book. And in the 600 items that we include in this new book, we organize them according to unit, we organize them according to chapter, we organize them according to skill, and we organize them according to these categories. We think thinking about AP Psychology items in those ways can help you be more prepared for the exam. So let's talk about these categories. Here's a screenshot. Here's a scan from the book, from the introduction to the book, where we repeat this information about this item analysis and the categories. The most important category, because almost half the items on the AP Psychology exams, at least the items that we look at, is the definitions category. In the definitions category, students need to know the definitions of terms, concepts, psychological research, or psychological models, but you need to know them in an in-depth way. Instead of just memorizing definitions of the terms, you need to be able to deeply process and understand what that term, concept, or vocabulary word means, because there's going to be items like this on the exam that require you to understand the term rather than just repeat the definition. So about half the items in our item analysis fell in the definitions category. About a third of the items were in the scenario category. This is where you not only have to understand a term, concept, or vocabulary word, you have to be able to apply it to a novel situation. Usually that situation involves a fictionalized name, and a little bit of information about the scenario, and you have to determine which term applies or how a term applies in a specific way. About 10% of the released items that we analyzed involved a psychological researcher's name. Now, you don't necessarily have to know the name of the researcher in order to get this item right. You might be able to get this example item right even if you don't know who Jean Piaget is, but knowing the name, being familiar with the name, will definitely help you get all of the names items correct. A few items, about 7%, involved or depended on student knowledge of psychological perspectives. These are perspectives that students study usually early in the course, like biopsychological perspective or biopsychology perspective or behavioral perspective or cognitive perspective. Knowing those perspectives really well will help you get the perspectives items right on the exam. About 10% of the item depended on a knowledge of research methods. This is another chapter that occurs early in the course but is very important. A thorough knowledge of experimental psychology, experimental methodology, correlational methodology, case study, especially the experimental methodology is the one that's usually emphasized. That knowledge will help you get these research methods items correct. And then finally, stimulus items. We found some items that all relate to a specific stimulus. The way this is done on the test is the students are given a stimulus, which might be a paragraph of text, it might be a picture, it might be a list of a data table, or it might be a graph, and then students are asked a series of questions about that stimulus. We think we're going to see more stimulus items on future exams, so we included plenty of stimulus items for you to practice in this book. So that's the unique item analysis that we engaged in. These are the categories we came up with. As far as we can tell, this is the first time anyone's engaged in this is kind of analysis of released AP Psychology items. We organized the 600 items according to chapters and these categories. So within each chapter, you will see items from each of these categories in proportion within that chapter. So as you study the Scientific Foundations unit and the items that are in the Scientific Foundations unit, you're going to see Scientific Foundations items organized according to these categories. We also mentioned and incorporated the new skills from the AP Psychology course description into this book. Here's a scan from a page of the book that describes the 3 skills that the College Boards say are used in the AP Psychology course. Skill 1 is the one you're most familiar with. In concept understanding, this is students understanding psychological vocabulary terms, concepts, models, theories, and research. Most of the items in our new resource, most of the 600 items in this book, relate to Skill 1, concept understanding. Skill 2 and Skill 3 are specifically relevant to any items that involve analyzing quantitative data or thinking about research methodology. We have plenty of those items in the book too, and we call out which items relate to Skill 1, Skill 2, and Skill 3 in the book. The most important thing about this book is it gives you lots of practice with multiple choice items. There are 600 new items that no one has ever seen before with answer explanations, and they're all keyed to what content unit, what category, and then what skill. So in each chapter, we start with item 1. This one happens to be a stimulus item, so students read the stimulus and you can try and answer that multiple choice question. You work your way through all of those items, and then you go to the back of the book where you get a thorough answer explanation of what the correct answer is, why it's the correct answer, and why each incorrect answer is incorrect. So that's the book. We hope it's useful for AP Psychology teachers and students, and please contact us if you have questions.